This one's going to be a little different because the veteran's worst enemy, it's not the VA, although they're up there. It's not CMP examiners. That's my number 2, actually. I would argue, and I'm going to argue, that a veteran's worst enemy when it comes to VA disability claims are other veterans. And I'll explain. If you get value from this channel, hit like, subscribe, do all the things. We appreciate it. Trying to get the word out. There are two reasons why I believe a veteran's worst enemy are other veterans. And this just happened to me on my channel, and I'm sure it's going to happen as time goes on. Okay, all the other creators get it. Combat Craig gets it. VA Claims Academy gets it. I'm sure Veterans Info Tab gets it in the comment section. Other veterans always compare themselves to others. And I don't understand it. Saying, hey, you walk right, you post videos on YouTube, you're way better off mentally than I am. And you're making that judgment from a small piece of time. And instead of getting your evidence, instead of understanding the big 3, instead of doing all the things that you can do, you're transferring your blame onto other veterans. And honestly, that's not going to get you service connected. Okay? You can blame me. You can blame the veteran that didn't deploy. You can blame whoever for your... Doesn't matter, because the reason you were denied was because the big 3, not because of someone else or something else. The big 3 are the in-service event, the current diagnosis, and the nexus. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. But just because someone did not deploy does not mean they do not rate VA disability. In fact, they rate all benefits, assuming they have the correct discharge and they served for a period of time. They get benefits. They get VA disability if they were doing physical training, twisted their ankle, their knee, their back, whatever, had a car accident, something happened, and they're service connected. That has nothing to do with you and your situation and your evidence, so stop transferring that blame. Now, me, I've deployed many times, okay? I've done my time. I deployed many times as Marine Corps infantry, so if you have that view towards me, you can eat a fat one, just to be real with you. But I'm telling you, veterans, 2 things. 1, if you are comparing yourself to others, just stop, because it doesn't do anything for you at all. And 2, do not let what someone else says dictate your life and dictate your disability. You focus on the big 3. What is your evidence from service? It's either medical or evidence other than medical. Understand your evidence from service, both of those aspects, medical and other than medical, and submit that claim with a current diagnosis. Now, I'm always going to preach a current diagnosis, but technically, you don't need to be diagnosed prior to going to that CMP exam. It's just going to be in your favor, I promise. But the CMP examiner can give you a diagnosis for VA rating purposes, assuming the evidence is there. So documented symptoms, treatment codes from your VA medical records, all of those would be documented symptoms that would lead an examiner to give you that diagnosis, which is required. Every claim requires that diagnosis, okay? And 3 is the nexus, linking your evidence from service and your current diagnosis. Boom, this condition caused by or aggravated from military service. There you go. That's the big 3. Nowhere in the big 3 does it talk about, I'm blaming this person for that. I'm blaming this veteran for that. You know what? You look better than me. I must be 100% P&T and you're a fraud. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't help anyone at all. And it certainly does not help you become service connected whatsoever. It's only the big 3. And that's it. Anyone talking outside the big 3 is full of poop. Don't listen to them. You got to have the big 3. You have to. It's not optional. You have to have the big 3. So that's reason number 1 of why I'm going to argue that veterans are each other's worst enemy. And the second reason is, although this one is well-intentioned, veterans that give advice, generally speaking, Okay. And I understand the irony of this because I'm on YouTube doing the same thing. Generally speaking, that advice is absolutely baloney. So you'll hear people saying, I got migraines presumptive under the PACT Act. Go ahead and submit migraines. It'll be service connected. Don't worry about it. It'll work for me. And that's not the case. Every single claim is extremely unique. You can have people that was with me in my unit standing right next to me all the way from the inventory to my PSYOP days. We could have the same background, same MOS, same deployments, same everything, except medical evidence, okay? And the medical evidence is going to dictate the claim. Now, is there room in there that the VA fails the adjudication process and the CMP examiner sucks? 1,000%. And I have tons of videos saying that the VA sucks. I also have videos say that the VA is good sometimes. And I absolutely have more videos saying CMP examiners suck. Okay, so that's a part of the process too. Don't get me wrong. But right now we're talking about veterans. And just look on any Facebook group or go on Reddit. And there's absolutely good advice out there. There's good advice here on YouTube. Okay, I hope I'm helping you in your VA disability claims process. But there's also advice that is just absolute dog water, and that's like the PG-13 way to say it. For instance, and this is a prime example, especially on Facebook groups and forums, when a veteran is denied, immediately people will just start giving advice on what that veteran should do to combat the denial with the HLR, a supplemental, or the board, hire a lawyer, hire a claims company, all this other stuff. And everyone's giving that advice without seeing the decision letter. How can you possibly give advice without seeing the decision letter? You have zero idea if that person was diagnosed. You have zero idea if they met the criteria for that presumptive. You have zero idea if they have evidence of that condition. We gotta stop giving baloney advice, and as a community, be more educated, be more involved in helping others and giving sound advice. No one on this planet can give advice for an appeal without looking at the favorable findings at a minimum. Really, you want to see what the CMP examiner gave their opinion on. CMP examiner opined that blah, 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 blah. You want to see that too, but at a minimum, favorable findings. You gotta look at favorable findings. Everyone wants, although it's well-intentioned, everyone wants to give advice because that's what worked for them. But what worked for them was their evidence other than medical, and everything surrounding that claim. And no other veteran is going to have that claim. It's going to be different. Every single claim is extremely unique. And that's why I think that the veteran's worst enemy, it's not the VA, it's not CMP examiners, although they're right up there, don't worry. It's actually other veterans.